Good evening, beloved. Good evening. I hope everyone can hear me. Good evening. Good evening. Here we go. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to give just a couple of minutes for people to realize that the live is going on and they can join. All right. So just a couple of minutes and we will get going. Okay. Just a couple of minutes and we will get going. I hope everyone had a fantastic week, right? So far, had a fantastic week so far, that it's been blessed and prosperous, and, that it's been intentional, right? That it's been intentional. It's been an intentional week that you have been meditative, you have been present, that in some of you that have been with me, have put some of the, we're into the 19th broadcast. And so, there's been a lot of great things that have been shared. And I hope that you have put a lot of the practical things in place. And depending upon what resonated with you, depending upon which episode really was something that you could use, that you found valuable, okay, that you found valuable. So we're not going to, what is it? Okay, just a couple of more minutes and we'll really get into it. But just begin to reflect on your week. Reflect on some things that you may want to change. Today we're going to be talking about answered prayer. Think about some prayers that you have been wanting to get answered. Okay, and not all necessarily prayers for yourself, but prayers for a loved one or someone else. Okay, and just begin to bring them into the present moment. Begin to bring them into the present moment. Okay, right. And so we're going to go ahead and create our safe container. As always, we want to make sure that our time together is always sacred space, right? Always sacred space, always a sacred, a safe container, always hallowed ground, okay? So if you haven't been with me, how we do that by creating and concentrating on our breath. We concentrate on our breath. We just slow down our consciousness, concentrating on our breath, opening up our third eye, the pineal gland, which is referred to as the face of God, the face of God. Okay, we open it up, we connect with the divine in ourselves so that divine can connect with ultimate divinity. We are co-creators, connecting with the grand creator, God, if you will. Okay, so take a deep breath in. Breathe in on a 4 count, filling up your diaphragm. Fill up your diaphragm. Okay, and then we hold that for 2 minutes. 2 seconds. Hold that for 2 seconds, right? And then we exhale on the 6 count. 6 count. Okay. We inhale on the 4 count, 4 seconds. We hold it for a 2 count, and we exhale on the 6 count, right? And we're always breathing in positivity. We're always breathing in those things that are creative, those things that really serve us, right? Really serve us, and not only us, but serves humanity, right? Serves humanity. And we exhale all those things out. We exhale those things out that no longer serve us, those things that are negative. Those things that happen today, that, cause you to, have negative thought and hold on to negative energy. Right? So deep breath in. Deep breath in. Hold it. Exhale. Deep breath in. Hold it. Exhale. Remember to breathe in through your nose, breathe in through your nostrils, and exhale through your mouth. Okay? And another deep breath in. I want you to begin to concentrate. Once we exhale, concentrate on your breathing, your normal deep breathing. Deep breathing. Concentrate on your breath. Concentrate on your breath. Center in to your breath. Center into this present moment, knowing that this is sacred ground, knowing that this is a safe container, right? Okay. Continue to breathe in. Continue to focus on your breath. And as you're breathing, I want you to imagine this glowing light, this golden light, this surreal, almost otherworldly light emanating from your third eye, right? And with every exhale, it goes brighter and brighter until it engulfs you. This loving, warm light, okay? This warming love light, this loving, warm light. One more deep breath in. Hold it. This is sacred ground. Exhale. We're in safe container. Safe container. All right. So, welcome back to Eden Life Live. This is connecting to Source, the source of everything. This is where we connect with divinity. And I'm delighted that you've joined me this evening as we explore one of the most fundamental spiritual practices. One of the most fundamental spiritual practices, which is prayer, right? Which is prayer. So, and just as, begin to settle in, just let me know where you're connecting from. Give me a wave in the comments, right? And, just, know that, what we're doing is that we are connecting. We're connecting here in this space. And over these past weeks, we've explored various dimensions of spiritual growth and practical application. We always want to make sure that you have something that you can apply immediately to your life. So today, we're going to discover how our three pillars, remember our three pillars are meditation, metaphysics, and manifestation. And we're going to discover how those three pillars create a framework for understanding and practicing prayer as powerful divine communion. As powerful divine communion rather than just a religious ritual. Okay? This is a divine communion. In prayer, we're connecting with God. We're connecting with Source. This is a divine communion rather than just some religious ritual. Okay? That makes sense? So, prayer is often approached as a formal religious practice or a way to ask for divine intervention in difficult circumstances. But the biblical understanding of prayer goes far deeper. Far deeper. I know people, know what is commonly called the Lord's Prayer, right? The Lord's Prayer, which actually is an example of how to pray, but not really, what to pray. It is how to pray. It is an example of how to pray, right? Because if you read scripture, we see that there were different prayers that the Messiah, that Yeshua prayed, right? So we don't want to just ascribe that this is the Lord's Prayer, but it is a way to pray, okay? So the biblical understanding of prayer goes, so deep. It's intimate. It's intimate communion with divine presence. A sacred conversation that transforms both our circumstances and ourselves. It is a transformative act. a transformative act. 1 Thessalonians 5:17 instructs us to pray without ceasing. This doesn't mean constant verbal petition, but rather ongoing divine communion, a continuous relationship with Source that informs every aspect of our life. Okay? Every aspect of our life. It is this ongoing communion, right? An ongoing communion. It is a continuous relationship. Many people struggle with prayer because they've experienced seemingly unanswered requests or approached it as a duty rather than a relationship. Okay? Does that sound familiar? Does that feel familiar? People wonder if they're doing it right. You know, some people, I've talked praying and said, I don't know how to pray. Really, or, people, think it's performative, right? Okay. So, they are definitely, if, and wonder if their prayer, if prayer really makes a difference in practical life. So today or tonight, we're going to explore how our three pillars create a framework for understanding and practicing prayer as transformative, right? As transformative divine communion that integrates spiritual connection with practical outcomes. Ready? So let's explore three key principles for powerful prayer practice. Powerful prayer practice. Number one, receptive communion through meditations. Receptive communion through meditation. I often say that prayer is us talking and meditation is us listening. See, that is, how communication. There's somebody who speaks, somebody who listens, somebody who then, after they listen, speaks, right? And that other person listens, right? It is, an opportunity to commune together. Oftentimes, it is just us, talking and not taking the time to, quiet ourselves so that we can get in the listener mode. Make sense? So, this meditation creates the foundation for prayer by developing our capacity for divine receptivity, right? Receiving divine receptivity rather than just verbal expression, rather than us talking, right? That's, prayer, right? So, it combined with meditation, now the communion, right? The communion in the relationships is intact. Makes sense? So many prayer approaches focus exclusively on speaking to God while neglecting the equally important dimension of listening. True prayer includes both expression and reception, a genuine dialogue rather than a monologue. A genuine dialogue rather than a monologue. Psalm 46:10 reminds us to be still and know that I am God. See, this stillness isn't absence of communication, but its deepest form. Presence with presence. Presence with presence. Beyond words and concepts. Here's a practice I call receptive prayer meditation. Receptive prayer meditation. Begin in a comfortable position as always, closing our eyes and taking 3 deep breaths, establishing a sense of sacred presence. Visualizing visualizing yourself sitting in the presence of divine love. Sitting in the presence of divine love, not a distant deity, but intimate companion, but an intimate companion, not a distant deity, right? Out somewhere, in the sky, but, as an intimate companion. Express what's in your heart authentically without religious formality. It's authentic. Be your authentic self. Be your authentic self without, the religious formality. And after expressing, shift to receptive mode with the simple invitation, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. That's out of 1 Samuel 3:9, right? After expressing, right, what's on your heart in an authentic manner, shift to receptive mode with the simple invitation, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. And then create space. Create space for the divine response. Create the space for the divine response, which may come as words, images, feelings, or simply a sense of presence. Simply a sense of presence. Now, complete by expressing gratitude for this communion, regardless of its form, okay? Regardless of how you received it. You want to create a space, go switch to receptive mode and, create a space so you can receive the message. And then express gratitude no matter how it comes. This practice helps balance the expressive and receptive dimensions of prayer. And with regular practice, prayer becomes less about specific techniques and more about authentic relationship with divine presence. Even, in the model prayer, right, there was an establishment of a divine relationship, our Father. Our Father. And number 2, understanding prayer laws through metaphysics. The second pillar, metaphysical understanding, reveals the spiritual laws governing effective prayer. When we understand these principles, prayer shifts from hoping for divine intervention to aligning with divine process. One fundamental principle is what I call the law of consciousness. The law of consciousness. The law of consciousness manifestation, rather. The law of consciousness manifestation. This is reflected in Mark 11:24. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Right? Conscious manifestation. Conscious manifestation. Remember that we are co-creators. And we have taken up the mantle, right, in this continued creative process. So believe that you have already received it and it will be yours. This law teaches us that prayer doesn't just request future change, but recognizes present reality at the consciousness level. Effective prayer isn't just asking for something to happen, but aligning our consciousness with its spiritual reality as already accomplished. It is so. It is so. And that's really what amen stands for. That it is so. That this is a consciousness realization, right? That it has happened and that we experience it in the present moment. So signs that you are aligning with this law include prayer or praying from a place of gratitude rather than need. Gratitude, being thankful for what has already transpired. Focusing on present reality in consciousness rather than future manifestation. And experiencing peace doing prayer rather than anxiety and striving. These are some signs that you are aligning with this law, right, of consciousness manifestation. And also noticing shifts in your perception even before external circumstances change. Noticing the shifts. Noticing the shifts internally before the external circumstances change. Now, another powerful principle is the law of divine alignment. The law of divine alignment, which is reflected in 1 John 5:14 through 15. This is the confidence we have in approaching God, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have what we have asked of him. Right? That we already know. We know, right, in this communion, in this divine relationship, there is a person who is receiving. The person's and who is receiving, that person is God, or that person is, or that entity is source. Here's our petitions. And now we have to create space for us to receive it, right? So this law reveals that prayer's effectiveness isn't about convincing God to do our will, but aligning with divine will. Not because God withholds blessings until we get the words right, no. But because alignment with divine purpose opens us to greater possibilities than our limited perspective can imagine. And what is divine purpose? The divine purpose is you operating in the purpose. Hello, Mary. Good evening. Is operating in the purpose and the plan that you were created for. Each of us were created purposefully. We all have a purpose, right? We all have a purpose to fulfill. And we receive that through vision. And we are gifted, we are gifted at creation to perform those things. So, we are aligning with God, right? Aligning with the divine will, which is what? The purpose for why we were created in the first place. And practical applications of this law include beginning prayer with openness to divine wisdom beyond personal preference. Right? We have to go into prayer being open to divine wisdom. We receive wisdom through being intentional and being open and not swayed by our personal preference. Asking for clarity about divine purpose before requesting specific outcomes. First, pray for what? Pray for clarity of the purpose. And remaining flexible about how answers may manifest. Remain flexible. Remain open. And then trusting divine timing and process even when different from our expectations. The promise, right, will be fulfilled. The promise will be fulfilled in its time. Okay? In its time. And number 3, manifesting prayer results through integration. Manifesting prayer, right? Manifesting prayer results through integration. Our third pillar, manifestation, teaches us that effective prayer integrates spiritual communion with practical action. Right? You're welcome. You're welcome, Isaiah. but thank Source. Right? Thank the divine. Thank God. And remember, confirmation comes in threes. Confirmation comes in threes. So, again, this third pillar, manifestation, teaches us that effective prayer integrates spiritual communion with practical action. It's neither passive, waiting for divine intervention, nor relying solely on human effort. Right? We're not the spectators, but it's not all about our effort. James 2:17 reminds us that faith without works is dead. This scripture reveals a manifestation principle, right? It reveals a manifestation principle. Prayer and action are partners, not alternatives. Prayer and action are partners. This is a partnership, right? They're not alternatives, either or, right? Divine communion informs and empowers human action rather than replacing it. Integrated prayer includes inspired action, taking steps that align with prayerful guidance. It also includes faithful persistence, continuing both prayer and align action despite delays. Delays are not denials. So you continue this divine communion, this faith in action, regardless of the delays. And remember that the delays are only in our mind. And then also, expected recognition, noticing how prayer manifests, often in unexpected ways. Right? That's why you have to be open. Right? It manifests, and in prayer often manifests in unexpected ways. And then also, grateful acknowledgement. Remember, gratitude is the key. Maintaining an attitude of gratitude always gives you more to be grateful for. Right? Celebrating divine participation in outcomes, right? That's what we want to do. Celebrate. Be thankful. Be grateful. Be joyful. Operate in bliss. Okay? So some practical manifestation steps include journaling. Always journaling. And I'm always, show you that, I have, books to journal, always, right? Journaling the insights that you receive during receptive prayer. So when you go into meditation, into this receptive prayer, and you receive these downloads, you receive these insights. This is how this ministry started. This is a divine download. These three principles, these three pillars, divine downloads. And I wrote it down. Okay? Identifying specific actions that align with your prayers. And remaining attentive to the synchronicities of unexpected opportunities. And then creating prayer action circles rather than separating spiritual and practical dimensions. Okay? Remember, this is a divine relationship. Right? Prayer in action. Okay? So, what makes this approach powerful is that it transforms prayer from occasional emergency intervention. That's how most of us approach prayer, right? Emergency intervention. So this approach is going to transform prayer from occasional emergency intervention to an ongoing divine partnership. Now, how does that sound? Does that sound better? an ongoing divine partnership. Prayer becomes less about specific outcomes and more about deepening, right, our relationship with God, deepening our relationship with Source. Through this relationship, it naturally produces tangible fruit. Okay? I'm going to repeat that. Prayer becomes, this is transformative prayer. Prayer becomes less about specific outcomes and more about deepening relationship with Source. Through this relationship, naturally produces tangible fruit. Tangible fruit. See, this doesn't mean that prayer always produces our desired results in our desired timing. Divine wisdom sometimes redirects our request towards greater good, toward a greater good than our limited perspective can envision. That's what transformative does. Transformative prayer, it begins to redirect. Right? Because we often shortcut. We often play small. But when we are in a relationship, true relationship with the divine, right? The divine, God wants us to always play big. And playing big, it goes beyond our expectation, beyond our imagination, and even beyond what it is that we ask for. Okay? It's greater. But when we understand prayer as communion rather than just petition, even redirected requests become part of a greater unfolding wisdom. So let's get some application in. How can we begin applying these principles to transform our prayer practice? And here's a simple process. Take time this week to reflect on your current relationship with prayer. Right? Take time to reflect. Hey sis, I see you, Madeline. Right? Take time this week to reflect on your current situation, your current relationship with prayer. Right? What expectations or beliefs do you bring to prayer? What are you bringing into prayer? What forms of prayer feel most authentic and alive for you? Not performative, right? On the street corners, right? As I want to say the heathens, but as folk do. But authentic prayer. What feels most authentic and alive to you? And where do you experience prayer more as a duty than a relationship? Right? If you begin to, you want to begin to isolate those places where prayer, is where you experience prayer more as duty, right? Then if you experience prayer as duty, then you want to move away from it. That's performative, right? That's performative. It's not productive, if you will, okay? Right? When you experience prayer more as a duty than a relationship, when you begin to move your prayer into relationship, now that's transformative prayer. Not performative, but transformative, okay? Now, and what questions or desires do you or would you bring to a completely open conversation with divine presence? Think about it. What questions, what desires would you bring to a completely open conversation? It's open. This conversation is an open conversation. There is no restrictions to this conversation, right? Why? Because when you're in divine presence, you're always in sacred space. You're always on hallowed ground, okay? And then step 2, communion practice. Establish a daily practice to deepen divine communion. A daily practice. 10 to 15 minutes of receptive prayer meditation. Journaling your insights and guidance, the insights and guidance that you received. Practicing presence throughout your day with brief prayer connections. You can do this throughout the day in the present moment. Always in the present moment. Here's the thing. You know, you never experience the past and you never experience the future. Every day, everything you experience is always present. So do it in the present moment. Okay? Practicing present prayer, present communication, present communion throughout your day, and experimenting with different forms of prayer to discover what feels most authentic. Right? What is most authentic for you? And the third step, prayer action integration. Prayer action integration. Choose one important area for focused prayer. What's important to you? One important area for focused prayer this week. Okay? Now, and create specific prayer intention for this area. Whatever area that you're going to pray about, that your prayer is going to be about. Create a specific prayer intention for this area. Listen for guidance about aligned action and implement what you received, however small it might seem. Right? Do not despise small beginnings, small intentions. Right? Do not despise it. Remember that God often speaks in a still, small voice. And notice and document how this prayer action cycle unfolds for you. Remember, prayer, like any relationship, deepens through consistent, authentic engagement. Focus less on what's correct, on the correct techniques, and more on genuine communion with divine presence. Okay? So I'd love to hear your thoughts, your questions about prayer. Now that you understand what transformative prayer is and truly how to get your prayers answered. You know, you can always, DM me, here on at the Facebook platforms. You can email me at revstefan@gmail.com. Those of you that have my number, right? Those of you who have my number, you can call me. I love to hear, right? What approaches have deepened your experience with divine communion? What challenges have you encountered in your prayer practice? Share them with me, okay? Share them with me. So I want to thank you for joining me this evening, as we explored the spiritual art of prayer, right? The spiritual art of prayer. I hope you're leaving with a deeper understanding of how meditation, metaphysical principles, and practical integration can transform prayer from religious duty to living communication. From religious duty to living communication. Right? So this week, I encourage you to practice the receptive prayer meditation daily. Being as authentic as possible. Show up who you truly are. And notice how your relationship with prayer begins to shift. So next Thursday, right here, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we're going to explore divine protection, spiritual safety in challenging times. And I don't know, for those of us that are living now, right, if we are in any more challenging times than we are right now. Okay? So divine protection, spiritual safety in divine challenges. This is going to be an episode, a broadcast for such a time as this, where we're going to discover how to maintain spiritual boundaries and peace amid life's storms. So if you found value in this evening's session, please share the video, right? Encourage your friends and loved ones to tune in, okay? Share it with someone who might benefit, and then again, make sure that you have your notifications on so you'll know that when we're going live. So until next time, remember that prayer is not about perfect words, but perfect presence. I'm going to repeat that. Prayer is not about, right, perfect words, but about perfect presence. Showing up authentically for divine communion that transforms everything else. Okay? So remember, always empower your purpose, embrace your journey, and witness the extraordinary unfold. Peace, love, and light, beloved. Peace, love, and light.